Hey, this is Kodi Zene, and this is episode 11 in the Making Monochrome series. Today we are covering our fourth shoot day, which was all of our hospital locations. Now this is probably one of our most ambitious days because story-wise, about more than half the movie takes place within the hospital or some part, of that. So we had a whole lot to cover. We had one day to do it. So on May 13th, 2017, our call time was about 6:30 in the morning, and we went to about 7:30, that evening. Location-wise, I worked for the hospital system again and started doing projects for this hospital's president. And, long story short, I went into his office one day and I was like, hey, I'm doing this movie and it's calling for a patient room in a hospital and a hallway and an emergency room and all this. Like, do you think I could use the hospital to do this? And he thought for a second and said, well, yeah, I guess, if we do it right, let's try to make it happen. And so he got me with all the right people of the hospital, the department heads, that I need to coordinate with for these different areas. And we ended up, being able to do it. Filming in or around hospitals or anything medical is super, super, tricky just because of HIPAA, and, you can't, if you accidentally get a patient's face or the wrong sign or a record or just anything like that, you have to be super cautious. And so, we had to make sure that everything was buttoned up, the day of ready to go. But, the thing about the hospital is, a majority of it takes place, once Isaac, the character, is shot and he's brought to a facility to be treated. He's in his patient room, and you have the individuals in there interacting with him, and we start to discover what's happening outside of those four walls and how things are blown out of proportion from him being shot and from the people's interactions or the news broadcast. And so over time we're learning this, but without leaving the room. And so we had to film all those scenes, and then there's a couple of the bad guy scenes, and then eventually Isaac wakes up and he gets into the hallway, and we needed the stairwell, and then the emergency room. He said, well, this is going to be really tricky just because it's an emergency room, and the way that this hospital is set up is there's I guess A through E different wings, and the emergency part is the first one we shot that day, just because they kind of open. The A is closest to the ambulance bay, and then E is further back. So we got all of E to ourselves for that one. We had a certain time we had to be done because people would start arriving for work and they'd start using the room. So we really had to go on that one. And that's the scene. We've got the gurney and Isaac's laying on, and Barry and Heather and Crystal, and then David comes up, and then Victor, and so everyone's in the hallway. So many takes of Barry and them pushing down the hallway, turning the corners, and then down a ramp, and they definitely got a good workout. But we had to be done with that, and Isaac's got the blood there. So there's a couple times in between takes where we're laughing because of for whatever reason, and someone's coming into work and they're looking around and they see him laying there bleeding, and then they see me with the camera and they're like, oh gosh, you guys are filming something. So but we did get all of those. Then we moved up to kind of the rooms, and I asked him, I need one patient room, maybe two, but if we have one we can just film it differently. And again, there was kind of this wing that I guess we were filming on a Saturday, and they weren't open on a Saturday. That's just this little corner, which was about, 5 or 6 rooms down this one hallway. And there's desks and stuff on the other side, but we really just needed one. And so again, we got, we looked out, we got the whole hallway. So basically from where he wakes up all the way down, 5 or 6 rooms, which is a pretty pretty good run of desks in between and then TV monitors and stuff like that. So it really added to when he does leave his room and he's exploring this new world, so to speak. It kind of adds to the suspense of there is no one here, and he's looking around. So it was really, really nice to do that. Although at the end of the hallway, it kind of comes to a T, and there's basically a door threshold to the next wing, where there was people working. So when we filmed, basically Isaac chasing after the nurse to try to get some help, the first take, I was like, okay, just go, run, shout loudly, and go with it, and I'll run behind you. And we did that. I was not prepared for how fast they would be running, number one. And then number two, we run towards the direction of that threshold, and then we turn a 90-degree turn down the hallway to the stairwell. Well, that first take, they were loud enough and saying just the right kind of, scary, bad things that when we came back around the corner, there was a kind of crowd, and they're like, are y'all okay? What's going on? And then it was called, security. So they had to close those little fire doors there, which kind of blocked it off there. So it was good. Again, just filming in hospitals is insane, but it worked out. It really got good. It was a big chunk of the movie, so just being able to just got it. It was awesome. So we finished about 7:30 that day with the stairwell, and it was a good run. One of the really cool things about the day that kind of stemmed out of me asking for this location was for it to be believable and just add that value to it. I knew one of the things that society would think is happening would be a viral thing, something that's contagious and spread, like, typical movies like that in the genre. So being able to have real hazmat suits, I knew would add a lot. So I asked the emergency preparedness department at the hospital systems, like, hey, the president's letting us film these locations here. Do you think we could borrow a suit, and a mask to film, and then we'll give it back? There's no mess or anything like that. And long story short, met with the guy, and we went, and there's a couple different styles, different kinds for different types of hazardous scenarios, that sort of thing. And so again, going back to picking the right color when converted to black and white that looks the best. We picked some different styles, and the boots and the gloves and all that, and I asked for one, and we got 5 or 6. Like, everybody had one. We didn't have to, okay, you're done with that one, come back. And so it was really funny it's like a whole process trying to put the suit on, and then taping the gloves, and then they have little fans that clip on to your belt, I think on 2 of the kinds we got for the scientists, and then the nurses in them, the fans were built into the hood, which, so people were trying them on. And then when filming, like getting the audio, with the fan on, you had this noise, which we wanted, but again, we wanted clear audio, so we kind of had to try it both ways. But then if you turn the fan off, it starts to fog in here so that they can't see, and it looks funny. But I think it was really nice being able to have actual, hazmat suits there. And I think everybody had a lot of fun. It ended up being really good. I think it worked out. But that was the 4th day done, out of the way, a big chunk, and we're almost halfway done with, definitely half the movie was shot by then, but the number of shoot days remaining at that time was still 8, so we were halfway done with the shoot. So it was a really good feeling, and really pumped to get on to shoot day 5.